turn that down.
Oh, hello everyone. How are we? How are we? How are we? We'll wait for people to come.
Of
Oh,
course.
we've got four. We've got four already. So we might as well go for it. Right, guys, I just want to start off and say happy Thanksgiving to everyone in America. I hope you are all well. You are having a good day. Personally, if I was celebrating Thanksgiving, I'd say I'm very, very grateful for like my friends in the paranormal and for who I've met recently. Like yourself, Mark, you know, a lot of the guys that I've known but no known properly and I've got to know and became really close to. Hey Nettie, hey Eric, happy Thanksgiving. Wayne, what about you? What would you be the most grateful for?
I think my kids and Ellen.
Oh, you're a wee cutie.
Obviously, because like without them, my life wouldn't be complete, really, to be honest. And I think, yeah, I'd agree with you there as well. Like the friends and people that I've met and friends that I've made on my wonderful life paranormal journey. You know, you've got those that you can trust, those that you don't. Those you don't have to talk to again. But the ones you do trust, they're friends for life. And
Oh God, without a doubt.
you know, it's without those people, life would be boring.
That is it, most that, and I'm really grateful. And it's funny how friends become strangers and strangers become friends.
Yeah.
So as you can see tonight, folks, we are without Nick and Rosie. Because Nick thinks he's entitled to a holiday, that boy. So, hi Ria, how
Hi,
you
Rita.
doing? So tonight, folks, we're doing the second part of Strangest Ways to Die because it seemed to have been popular. Show the last time when we did do Strangest Ways to Die, everybody seemed to like it. So obviously, myself and Wayne, we just decided. I did offer him aliens, but it wasn't for aliens. So we're talking about the old strangest ways to die. So Wayne's got to kick us off with some of the things that he's found. So enlighten us, young man.
Well, there was plenty of things that I could find of various people throughout history. Oh, hello. Oh. There were so many different things I could find throughout history, going right the way back, medieval England and medieval all around the world, right the way up to modern day. So there are quite many openings for another another one of these episodes in the future, part 3, 4, or 5 even.
Well,
so we got plenty to rely on. So the first one I'm going to refer to, and I had to quite giggle at this when I read this, because this is not the sort of run-of-the-mill thing you would come across. But in 1518, there was a thing that was documented as the dancing plague. Now, we've heard of the Black Plague and all these viruses that have gone all around the world and so on and so forth. This was called the dance epidemic of 1518. Now, it was a case of dancing mania that occurred in Strasbourg, Alsace, or France as it is nowadays, in the Holy Roman Empire from July 1518 to September 1518. Somewhere between 50 and 400 people took to dancing for weeks on end. There are many theories behind the phenomena, and the most popular being stress-induced mass hysteria, suggested by John Waller. Other theories include ergot and religious explanations. There is controversy concerning the number of deaths. So basically, the outbreak began in July 1518 when a woman called Frau Trophia began to dance fervently in the street in Strasbourg. Troffea kept up the constant dancing for 1 week, and soon 36 other people joined in. By August, the dancing plague had claimed 400 victims. Dancers were beginning to collapse. It is said some even died from a stroke or even heart attack. And no one knew what caused this reaction, which meant no one understood how to remedy it. But early September, the outbreak began to subside when the dancers were sent to a mountain shrine to pray for absolution. Historical documents include physician notes, cathedral sermons, local and regional chronicles, and even notes issued by Strasbourg City Council are clear that the victims danced. It's not known why. Historical sources agree that there was an outbreak of dancing after a single woman started, and the dancing did not seem to die down. It lasted for such a long time that it even attracted the attention of authorities, until the council gave up authority to the physicians who prescribed the afflicted to dance themselves free of it. There are claims that the guild halls were refurbished to accommodate the dancing, as well as musicians and strong people to help keep those dealing with the dancing mania to stay upright. And this backfired, and the council was forced to ban public dancing as people danced in fear that it was punishment from Saint Vitus. And to be free of sin, many joined in on the dancing epidemic. The council went as far as to ban music as well. Those who danced were then ordered to go to the shrine of Saint Vitus, wore red shoes, and were sprinkled with holy water and had painted crosses on tops of the soles. They also had to hold small crosses in their hands, and incense and Latin incantations were part of this ritual. Apparently, forgiven by Vitus, word was spread of a successful ritual, and the dancing plague had ended. Events similar to this are said to have occurred throughout the medieval age, including the 11th century in Kolbeek, Saxony, where it was believed to be the result of demonic possession or divine judgment. In the 15th century Apulia in Italy, a woman was bitten by a tarantula, the venom making her dance convulsively. The only way to cure the bite was to shimmy and to have the right sort of music available, which was an accepted remedy by scholars like Anastasius Kircher.
Oh my god. Imagine dancing to death. That's fucking nuts. Sounds like me when I've had too many. Do you know, it kind of puts me in the mind of Father Ted when they go for the car and they have to go to the dancing priest. And just as they leave, he takes a heart attack. And it's kind of put me in the mind, the set there. Hello, sweetheart. Is that Tanton?
Sorry, my little
No,
friend,
you're fine, love.
little
You're
friend wants to buy
fine.
some Dr. Pepper.
On yourself.
There you go.
While he's doing that, one of the stories that I've read was from one of the from professionals, and it's the most bizarre deaths that professionals who work with dead bodies have seen. And one of the ones that I found extraordinary was this was from a professional. We had a guy who died from multiple stab wounds to the chest, which isn't all that weird, except the wounds were all oddly shaped. It turned out that the guy had recently divorced his wife because she developed a massive meth addiction and had moved out because she was psychotic. But she found out where he lived, broke in, stabbed him to death in his sleep. The weird was, and he was actually a collector of weird, goofy fantasy knives. One of which was used in his murder. His ex-wife decided to keep the knife afterwards and was arrested when the knife and his blood were found in her kitchen sink. And see some of the disco priest from Father Ted. Yep, I absolutely love Father Ted. The other one I read was, we had a family friend who was an alcoholic who blacked out and died of asphyxiation. Official cause of death was the unconsciousness forced the victim into a position incapability with life. When clarification was sought, they said she passed out and fell into a position that prevented her from breathing. I didn't know what that was possible. You find that you can go into positions because if you fall asleep, your body goes into. I mean, I woke up literally one morning with my ankle wrapped round the banister in the loft and my other leg wrapped round the bedpost. And I was shaped like I was half in and half out the bed. And at that time, my dad didn't know how to wake me because he was feared if he woke me and I got a fright, I was easily breaking two legs and maybe coming out and breaking my neck at the same time. So it shows you how, like, when you go into that sleeping position,
Yeah.
the most weirdest ways that you can.
Well, when you think about it, if you look at it the right way, it's like the same with people that snore. Snoring only is generated because of the way the position of the throat and the head is, and it allows like the bits at the back of your throat to flap about, and that's what makes the snoring noise. And depending on what position you're in, you can choke yourself. So, you could do it without actually realizing. And obviously, when you're drunk, you're not quite the full ticket. So,
Well, I.
You could see people, I suppose, that they get drunk and they stumble over and fall over and hurt themselves. The other people, they just quietly go home and drift asleep. But it depends on how you're sleeping. If you scrunch your neck up, you're restricting your breathing. So,
see, I'm like, the way I sleep at night is that I bring like my knees up to my start. I almost put myself into the fetal position because that's the only way that I feel comfortable. Yeah. And do you know the only time I started that way? When I contracted long, well, I can't say it because obviously the long C, because that's the only time that I really started to sleep like that. It's weird. It's definitely weird. Another one that I found was an ancient, when you were talking about obviously people from like different eras. Well, here's one that I found from ancient China. There was a duke called Duke Jing, and he was a ruler of Jin from 599 to 581 BC, who actually drowned in a toilet. He wouldn't live to enjoy the coming harvest. Later that summer, he was preparing to eat the ewe wheat. The Duke had the chairman execute, telling him his prophecy of death was clearly wrong. Just as the Duke was about to eat the wheat, he felt the urge to go to the toilet. There in the Royal WC, the Duke fell through the hole and into the lane pit below where he drowned. One of the Duke's servants bravely dived into his cesspool to retrieve his master's body. The thanks the slave got was to be but the slave got. His thanks for trying to save the Duke, he got was to be murdered and buried with his dead boss to continue serving them in the afterlife. So
that's very similar to the one I came out with in the first episode, with the 15th century guy that fell in the cesspit and nobody heard him screaming, and so he was trying to tread water, if you can call it water, in the cesspit, and in the end he was exhausted and he drowned. And nobody found him until they went back to figure out why he hadn't finished his job, and found his body floating in all the feces and you name it.
Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah, I believe so. So, right, would you like one of my ones?
Smack me with it.
Okay. Now, Henry II He was the King of France from 1547 until his death in 1559, so he wasn't that old. He was the second son of Francis I and Duchess Claude of Brittany, and he became the Dauphin of France upon his death of his elder brother Francis in 1536. Now, as a child, Henry and his elder brother spent over 4 years in captivity in Spain as hostages in exchange for their father. Henry pursued his father's policies in matters of art, war, and religion. He persevered in the Italian wars against the Habsburgs and tried to suppress the Reformation, even as the Huguenot numbers were increasing drastically in France during his reign. And then in June 1559, Henry was injured in a jousting tournament held to celebrate the treaty and died 10 days later after his surgeon, Ambroise Paré, was unable to cure the wound inflicted by Gabriel de Montgomery, the captain of his Scottish Guard. Though he died early, the succession appeared secure, as he left 4 young sons, as well as wife Catherine de Medici. To lead a capable regency during their minority, 3 of those sons would all live long enough to be king themselves, but their ineffectual reigns and the unpopularity of Catherine's regency helped to spark the French wars of religion between Catholics and Protestants, and an eventual end to the House of Valois as France's ruling dynasty. So all because of a bizarre jousting tournament. But Henry II was an avid hunter and a participant in jousts and tournaments. And on the 30th of June, 1559, a tournament was held near the Place de Versailles to celebrate the peace of the Cateau Cambrésis, I think that's how it's said, with his longtime enemies, the Habsburgs of Austria, and to celebrate the marriage of his daughter, Elizabeth of Valois, to King Philip II of Spain. During a jousting match, King Henry, wearing the colours of his mistress, Diane de Poitiers, was wounded in the eye by a fragment of splintered lance of Gabriel Montgomery, captain of the King's Scottish Guard. Despite the efforts of royal surgeons Ambroise Paré and Andreas Vesalius, the court doctors ultimately advocated a wait-and-see strategy. As a result, the King's untreated eye and brain damage led to his death by sepsis on the 10th of July, 1559. His autopsy found that he had had a cerebral abscess, and the infection that he got through sepsis may have travelled to his brain. He was buried in the cadaver tomb in St. Denis Basilica. Henry's death played a significant role in the decline of jousting as a sport, particularly in France.
Oh, that is a really interesting one. Just shows you, really does show you. One that I found was about something that happened up in Scotland. It was Sergiu, the mighty and 9th century Norse Earl of Orkney, was killed by an enemy he had beheaded several hours earlier. He tied the man dead to his horse's saddle, but while riding home, one of its protruding teeth grazed his leg, and he died from an infection. Oh, here's Parker. Hey, Parker. Hey. Another one that I did find as well was there was a guy, Edward Harrison. He was playing golf in Washington State in 1951 when his driver snapped and the shaft lodged in his groin. He staggered about 100 yards before bleeding to death. Here's Annette got a story. On March 24th, 1975, Alex Mitchell from Kingsland, England, died laughing while watching the Kung Fu Capers episode of The Goonies. Featuring a kilted Clyde Scotsman with his bagpipes battling a master of the Lancasterian martial art, Echo Thump, who was armed with a black pudding. After 5 minutes of a continuous laugh. Mitchell then slumped on the sofa and died from heart failure. His widow later sent the Goonies a letter thanking them for making Mitchell's final moments of his life so pleasant. That suppose that's bittersweet in a way that the Goonies got thanked, but laughing to death. It just shows you how easy. I mean, there's been many stories where people were laughing to death.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I did come across a few of those, and one of them I think I did mention in the first episode that we did. So, I suppose in a way it can happen. You know, you laugh too much, your heart rate increases. Who knows if it's not strong enough?
I must admit, I could get to laughing, but that must take some amount of laughing, you know, before you actually die. It's mental. I
Well,
mean,
it had to have been a good sketch to make someone laugh that much.
oh my God, I definitely, and it's hard to find these days. I must admit though, when I go on to Amazon Prime, I really like the fact that they play the old Addams Family. I've been watching that, and it's a really, really good Addams Family. But I prefer the Gomez, who was in Street Fighter. Don't know
Right.
the actor's name, but he played Street Fighter. He was the bad guy in Street Fighter. And I preferred him as Gomez. But I like the Morticia for the old Addams Family.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of different characters there that you sort of like you say to yourself, "Oh, I like him from this version, but I didn't like her from that version." And if you
Mm-hmm.
could mix half the characters from the older version with half the characters from the newer version, you would have
Uh-huh.
the right amount. You know, it would be the right sort of mixture. But
Uh-huh.
you know,
I, it's just when they try and take something that's so good and they try and like redo it. Like, see the amount of times I've seen them do like Spider-Man's, Batman's, you know, and it's all the different people.
Yeah.
Like when we were watching Spider-Man, and the only favourite Spider-Man that I have, I know this has nothing to do with Strangest Ways to Die, but we could go down rabbit holes in this show, is Tom Holland. I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man.
I stopped watching Spider-Man after the first couple and just got too tedious.
No,
You know,
I
let's
can.
stick another Spider-Man movie out here, and I'm just like, really, you know, it's like watching Police Academy films. You watch the
I
first one,
love Police Academy.
and the first one's hilarious. Second one is hilarious. The third one, yeah, it's all right. It's quite funny. And then once you get to the fourth one, you're just like, really?
Yeah,
And then when you
I
know,
get
you
what
get
you're
to
saying.
Mission to Moscow, and you just like, oh, do they have to? And now there's the rumor that they're going to do another one.
Oh, it'll not be as good though. It'll not be as good.
Steve Guttenberg and Michael Winslow have both said that there is another one in the making. And I'm
Oh
like,
my
no,
God.
leave it 6 foot under.
I
Dead and
leave
buried. Just
alone.
leave it there.
Annette says I started off in labour watching Billy Connolly. I've never laughed so much in my life. He is a really, really good comedian, especially in the film The Man Who Sued God. I watched that movie and I thought it was brilliant.
I've never seen it. I've watched some of his the little tour shows that he did.
Uh-huh.
Doing his he was out on tour doing his shows, and he was showing him all the places that he was visiting on the way. You know, I found him quite interesting, and I just never really. I don't know. He's funny, but you've either got to like him or he's Marmite, isn't he? You either like him or you don't.
I'll tell you who I never used to like, and then I really, really have to. Jimmy Carr. I think Jimmy Carr's fucking hilarious. But seeing the beginning, I was quite Jimmy Carr. but I've grew to love Jimmy Carr. It's his laugh. It's literally his
The
laugh.
backwards laugh.
Oh my god.
He stands
Him
in
and
there.
It's him and Sean Locke. When Sean Locke got rest his soul. When Sean Locke was alive, I loved Sean Locke as well. The one that cracks me up is when Jimmy asks Sean, if you could bring back anything extinct, what would it be? And he starts it off dead mildly and he goes, I'd bring back the dinosaurs and I would take the teeth and nails off them. So if they tried to bite me, I'd be like, and then he said, no, this is strong viewers discretion advised before I get reported. Then he said he'd bring back the Nazis. And Jimmy tried to stop him, but he was like, no. He's like carried on, and basically what he said was he'd put them on paradise. Put them on an island, sorry. It was Jimmy that said about paradise. And then he said they would be, what would you call it? And that's the island. And I just laughed because Sean Locke's humour is just second to none. So what other ones have you got?
Okay, I've got Francois Vatel, who's
Ooh.
I'm not even going to pronounce the actual French pronunciation, but he was around in 1631 to 1671, and he was the major domo of Nicolas Fouquet and Prince Louis II de Bourbon-Conde. That makes sense. He was born either in
Hey,
Switzerland.
Dad.
He was born in either Switzerland or in Paris in 1625, 1631 or 1635. So they're not too sure, but roughly around that area. But he was widely but incorrectly credited with creating creme chantilly. Okay. Now he served as Louis XIV's superintendent. He was Nicolas Fouquet in the inauguration fete at the Chateau de Vaux-le-Vicomte that took place on the 17th of August 1661. Vatel was responsible for an extravagant banquet for 2,000 people hosted in honour of Louis XIV by the Grand Condé in April 1671 at the Chateau de Chantilly, where he died. According to a letter by Madame de Sévigné, Vatel was so distraught about the lateness of the seafood delivery and about other mishaps that he decided to commit suicide by running himself through his sword, and his body was discovered when someone came to tell him of the arrival of the fish delivery. This incident is thought to be the origin of the idiom "died for want of lobster sauce," a phrase meaning to die or be devastated due to a minor disappointment or mishap. So he couldn't wait any longer, so he killed himself so he wouldn't get hung by Louis XIV. And then shortly after that, someone turned up to say the delivery had arrived.
That is just nuts. That is nuts.
If only he had awaited.
Patience, as they say, patience is a virtue. Not
Exactly.
clearly for him. Another one that I found was General John Sadwick. Was killed by a sniper in the American Civil War. Shortly after uttering the words, "they couldn't hit an elephant at this distance," contrary to popular belief though. They weren't his last words, they were his second last. His last words were agreeing that dodging was in fact a good idea. And do you know what? People speak too soon and do things too soon, and then it comes round and bites you right in the ass.
Well, it's a bit like the last guy, you know. Rather than just wait and see what happens, he took his life and then discovered that he shouldn't have done because it was just merely late.
Well, we all love alcohol. Well, some of us all love alcohol. But here's one that I did find. 8 people died in the London beer flood of 1814.
No.
Oh, night night, sweetie.
Say night.
Say no, night.
Night night, sweetheart.
Go, night, wave. Give a wave. Go, night, night.
Night night.
See you in the morning.
Oh, so cute. So the London beer flood of 1814, when a driver at a brewery burst, sending over 3,500 barrels of beer pouring through the nearby streets. Now, we've had tsunamis of waters, but never tsunamis of beer. No. Oh, hello, Steve. Hey, my love. Welcome. But yeah, it's just like, oh my god. Like, I've heard of tsunamis when it comes to water, but never beer. So when I read that one, right, I'm going to hell because I did have a chuckle about it. Don't die on me, Wayne. You better not cough to death on this live.
That chip decided to go down the wrong hatch.
See, that's what happens with the beer.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I wonder how many people got drunk on that.
Probably quite a few. I mean, I don't know whether you have or not, but I mean, some people have. I certainly have. When a lorry has overturned and its contents have gone all over the motorway, the amount of times I've seen people sort of hanging around, picking up the contents of this lorry off the road and go, well, here, I'll have this. And they've gone and stuck it in their own car. And we do it around here locally when the farmer has been taking the onions out of the field and he has to take them to a certain place. And if he slightly overloads the tractor, every time he turns the corner, these onions spill off over the side. And the amount of times I've seen people literally stop on the side of the road because they've seen a load of onions on the grass verge. So they've pulled over, they've run across the road and they've gone, hey, 3 onions. Hey, I'll have them. And they're putting them back in the boot, carrying on.
Oh my god.
It's crazy.
That really doesn't surprise me at all.
And again, that would be a prime candidate for a weird way to die.
Chasing
picking up onions out of the road and getting hit by a car. Was it when you get to the pearly gates, was it worth picking up those onions? I don't think so.
No. No for certainly no for all the love and money. Definitely no. But it's like, see, when you hear some of these stories, how people died, it's like, here's our Sarah Louise. Hey, honey.
Sarah.
It is just nuts. I mean, I read about, the guy in China, southern China, who was bitten by a cobra's served head, which he cut off 20 minutes earlier. And Fan had put the head aside while using the body to prepare a soup. And the snake obviously still killed him. And it was just nuts. And I'm like, see some of the things they eat. And I've got a huge, massive phobia of snakes. I just, oh no, to even talk about it, it gave me the kind of, oh no. It depends on how much you love onions. I love onions, but not enough to get myself killed. Steve says, I know a bloke who died after falling in a vat of coffee. He did. I love that one, Steve. I'll give
Well,
you that one.
he was lucky because he could have gone through the system and get percolated.
Well, and I bet he was a bit sweet as well when he went through.
Come out the other end. Do you want sugar with that? Creamer?
Oh, wow. Tastes like chicken. Oh, Lord. No, Sarah Louise.
Yeah, chicken soup factory. No, there's no difference in taste with this soup.
I know, it's just like, oh, no. But yeah, I mean, the best program to watch is A Thousand Ways to Die, because some of the stories that I seen on that were just nuts. There was this one guy who was a peeping Tom, and he was spying on the women up the stairs from him, and they had put cameras in, like wee small cameras that you can see really through the ceiling, so it was looking up the way.
Yeah.
And her ceiling went through, and he would happen to be under spying on her. So he's up spying on her, and her ceiling collapsed and killed him. That's what you get for being a peeping Tom.
Yeah. Well,
but 12 War Room minute. Oh no. Oh no. And on the scale of things, that's not a good idea. It isn't, Sarah Louise. Sarah isn't. Oh no, Eric. No. Do you know that's why I will go to Australia? Is because of snakes. And I've never fancied Australia. My friend's touring Australia now. He's doing 3 weeks in Australia, and he's like, I've no seen a snake. I says, I would not sit my ass on the toilet seat because I'd be fearful.
You do have to check the toilets first.
Oh God.
I'd be checking with a lighter and a can of deodorant. The old flamethrower down the pan. That's it. No spiders in here. I'm safe.
Oh, do you know what? Spiders don't bother me. Like, I am the run of the mill sort of chick. I'm down with the spiders, but when it comes to snakes, oh holy jeez, no.
Nah, snakes. I'm not bothered about. Some spiders, I'm not too bothered about. Depends on how big they are.
If they're wee tiny wee things like this, you're alright. But when it comes to big things, you're just like, fuck this.
Well, when I was in primary school, we went to London Zoo and we went into the reptile house, and they put a red-kneed tarantula on my shoulder, and that was the first time anybody had heard me swear, because I literally turned round to the zookeeper and said, "Get that effing thing off my shoulder," and the teacher was like, "Wayne, what was that?" And I turned around, I said, "Get that off my shoulder." When we got back to the school, they got my parents up to the school. They gave me a bollocking in front of my parents, and my mum turned around and said, "What happened for him to swear?" And they went, "Well, the zookeeper put a spider on his shoulder." She turned around and she said, "Yeah, I'd have done a lot more worse if you put that on my shoulder." She said, "You wouldn't have had a reptile house left."
Sarah Louise said she'd still be scared if they did that to her.
Yeah. I don't certain size spiders, I don't mind. I can deal with them. You know, if any of the kids turn around to me and say there's a spider in the house, I won't kill them. I'll get a glass and I'll get a piece of card or something and put it underneath, and I'll take it out into the middle of the close and I'll let it go. But the second it runs back towards the house, that's when it meets my size 11. If it makes its way back to the house. So if that says, "Sod you, matey, I know where I've come from, I'm heading back in there before you do," and starts running, it's clonk, you're gone. Or if they run out from underneath something, if they make me jump. So if I'm sort of like, I don't know, I'll move the rug and I'll move the sofa, and the spider comes running out from underneath the sofa, it's meet the size 11. You don't make me
I'm,
jump.
I'm actually really good with spiders. I've said it before, I'll pick up anything. You're just nuts, Eric. I
The only
love
thing
animals.
the only thing I'm happy picking up is food and a cold. That's it.
Depends on what food. It depends on what food you're picking up.
What about a double bacon burger?
No, you're alright. You can keep that one.
Chili
Hi,
cheese bite?
William.
What about a chili cheese bite?
No.
Okay.
Listen, I was due to pack my bags and come down the other night when I seen the noodles on that Facebook. I was like, oh, I'm moving to Colchester.
I'll tell you, those
Screw this,
noodles
like.
are absolutely gorgeous. I think what would have made them better if it was shredded beef rather than minced beef.
Mm.
It would have made that a lot better. But I know that for next time. But the night before, we'd had pork, oregano, and cranberry burgers, homemade, and they were absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait to make them again. They were lovely.
Right, we've made Sarah Louise hungry.
Sorry, Sarah.
It's true.
Anyway,
It's true.
speaking of food, this brings me on to my next weird way to die, or the
Woo!
person that died in a strange way. Now, Thomas Otway, who was from 1652 to April 1685, he was an English dramatist of the Restoration period and best known for Venice Preserved, or A Plot Discovered, in 1682. Now, he was born in Trotton near Midhurst, in the parish of which his father, Humphrey Otway, was at the time curate. Humphrey later became rector of Welbeeding, a neighbouring parish where Thomas Otway was brought up and expected to commit to priesthood. He was educated at Winchester College and in 1669 entered Christ Church, Oxford, as a commoner, but left the university without a degree in the autumn of 1672. At Oxford, he made the acquaintance of Anthony Carey, 5th Viscount Falkland, through whom he says in the dedication to Caius Marius, he first learned to love books. In London, he made acquaintance with Aphra Behn, who in 1672 cast him as the old king in her play Forced Marriage, or The Jealous Bridegroom, at the Dorset Garden Theatre. However, due to severe stage fright, he gave an abysmal performance and never returned to the stage, instead opting to write what was being performed. The same year as the performance, his father died, triggering Otway to officially abandon any thoughts of priesthood and move to London to become a playwright, where he discovered his muse. The muse he had fallen in love with was Elizabeth Barry, who played many of the leading parts in his plays. 6 letters to her survive, the last of them referring to a broken appointment in the mall. She seems to have flirted with Otway, but had no intention of permanently offending Rochester, her lover. In 1678, driven to desperation, Otway obtained a commission through Charles, Earl of Plymouth, a natural son of Charles II, in a regiment serving in the Netherlands. The English troops were then disbanded in 1679, but were left to find their own way home as best as they could. They were paid with depreciated paper, and Otway arrived in London late in the year, ragged and dirty, a circumstance utilised by Elkanah Settle in his Sessions of the Poets. Upon his return, he apparently ceased to struggle against his poverty and misfortunes. At one point, in attempts to make money, he tutored the son of famed Restoration actress Nell Gwynn. The generally accepted story regarding the manner of his death was first given in Thales Keber's Lives of the Poets. He is said to have emerged from his retreat at the Bull and Tower Hill to beg for bread. A passer-by, learning who he was, gave him a guinea, with which Otway hastened to the baker's shop, and he ate too hastily and choked on the first mouthful. And whether this account of his death is true or not, it's certain that he died in the utmost poverty and was buried on the 16th of April, 1685, in the churchyard of St. Clement Danes.
Oh.
So
Do you
he's
know
given
what that?
he was
Right,
given
only
a
go ahead.
guinea. He was given a guinea to buy some bread, and it killed him.
That's just nuts. You know, that's not the first time that I've heard people who die. And see when people do these food contests and they make it so spicy, but they're still determined to do it. And it's just, you know, when I look to that man that used to do Man versus Food, I'm like, I don't know how you can do the challenges because I sure as shit, my stomach would die. I would need picked up CPR.
I look at them and I go, "Oh my word, that looks absolutely amazing." But if that got put in front of my face, I'd be like, "Oh no!"
You're just like, no.
Just wait a minute while I hollow out my legs.
But it's just like, not a chance. Do you know, I must admit, and the Americans on here that watch my show will even say the same thing, but see some of the portions over in America, I say to
Yeah.
myself, like, Jesus Christ, that would do me for a month because I'm no much a eater. And see when I see like their burgers or steaks, everything else, I'm like, holy God, no, that's just
Yeah,
too much for me.
I remember went to. I think I was about 6 or 7. We went to Florida, and that included going to the Bahamas and going to the Disneyland. And we went. I'm sure it was called Danny's or Denny's, and it was a chain restaurant. And I had picked this hot dog, not realizing how big this hot dog was. And it came out, and this was supposed to be a child's meal. Now, unless this child was 7 foot tall and 7 foot wide, no chance. This hot dog came out and it was 1.5 feet, 2 foot long. It was like this, the bun and the hot dog. And the chips that came with it, or the fries that came with it, I just couldn't eat it all. I ended up only eating half the hot dog, half the fries, and my mum put the rest in a goodie bag to take home for later. It was massive. But so yeah, the portions are big, but they've got no qualms of turning around and saying it's all right, take it home and eat it later.
No wonder, no wonder. I mean, I've seen some of their sizes that obviously I was like, holy God. I love ice cream, right? I'm a big ice cream fan. I do like ice cream. And I must admit, they look good, but holy shit, that would be enough to give me brain freeze. You'd actually need to chip my brain. Sarah Louise says there's a restaurant in America called the Heart Attack Grill. That doesn't surprise me. We have a lot of all-you-can-eat places here. Did you have a Diet Coke with it?
We used to have quite a lot of around here. I know we had quite a lot of all-you-can-eat places, but then some bright spark cottoned on with the idea that, oh, hang on a minute, people are leaving stuff on their plate. If we charge them for what they leave on the plate, we can make more money.
Yep.
So they do. All you can eat places in my area, they will charge you. So when you finished your meal, they take the plate and weigh it to see how much extra food has been left on the plate, and you get charged for that wastage. And the first time I saw that was a Chinese buffet down in Devon that we went to when we were on holiday down there. And there was a little bit left, and they'd literally put the plate on the scales and said, "What, you owe us an extra £3.50 for leaving this on the plate." And like, well, where's the signage on the door? There was no signage on the door, so my dad just turned around and went, "If you think I'm paying the extra, you can take a run and jump. There's no signage on the door that says you charge if we leave stuff on the plate."
Mm-hmm.
He was lucky; he got away with it, but it seemed to have spread. And a lot of places do it now. If you leave anything, you pay the extra for it.
Oh, it's nuts. Well, you can't, everybody knows how Lois's shows go, right? So there's not going to be any shocking surprise to what Lois discovered. So, here goes. And Guy, by the way, you're all going to think I'm an info. but I found one quite entertaining. A Brazilian couple stopped in the middle of a busy highway and were crashed into and killed. They stopped to have sex. In the middle of the highway.
It was the Humpy Highway.
They just couldn't wait to get home.
I should have pulled over first.
But I mean, there's living life in the fast lane, but fuck me. We're literally stopping in the middle of the highway. oh,
I've got
wow.
a thought in my head, and I'm sorry, but it's coming. It's getting close to my vocal cords, and I'm going to say,
Come on, hit me with it.
He came like a juggernaut.
Rhea, oh my God, Wayne. I know he's terrible, Rhea. He leads me astray every time.
Hang on a minute. Who was it that found this article about this Brazilian company decided to have sex on a highway? I just reacted to your research.
All right. I'm getting pointed at for the other side of me. Well, sloth as usual. You know, a man was delivered a bill for his own cremation, which was extremely expensive. He got a heart attack and then died. Ironically, after he did die, he was cremated at the same crematorium they got the bill from.
But they're the sort of, in a way, they're the sort of bizarre but funny ways to die. And I was explaining it to my son earlier on, Ethan, saying that I was reading about a guy was given, he'd committed murder, and he'd been given the death sentence. And it was still one of the states in America that still had the electric chair. So he was put onto, obviously, what they call the Green Mile or whatever. He was put into the holding area. And so his solicitor or his lawyers had put in an appeal against this on the terms that some of the evidence wasn't used or that would have saved him as such. So this evidence was withheld that could have changed things. And on appeal, this evidence re-emerged. And on the appeal, yes, he still committed murder, but because the judicial system had left out this evidence, they reduced it. So just to get life imprisonment. So literally, he's in the holding cell. He's been taken to this office where he's now been told, you are no longer on death row. So you will now go to a cell out of this block and spend the rest of your life in jail. He's like, brilliant. Yes, I'm not going to be killed, blah, blah, blah. He gets taken to the cell block. He goes to the cell. He sits down. He goes, whoa, it's a bit hot in here. Goes to the sink to wash his face. There's a loose cable in the sink. Ends up electrocuting himself. So he ended up dying anyway. By electrocution. So he went through all this hassle of the Court of Appeal. He tried to appeal against it. They found all of this evidence and they finally pushed it forward, and he got his sentence reduced from the death penalty to life imprisonment. And he gets into his cell, decides to have a wash, and gets electrocuted anyway.
Oh, it's like, oh my God, it's like one of the moments that you're just like, Jesus.
It was his time to go.
I can't believe when it only feels like we've done about 20 minutes and we're 55 minutes in. Time flies when me and Wayne are on because we're having so much fun.
Well, I've only got one more left anyway, so.
Smack me bit.
Okay. Now we have a guy called Henry Hall. And he got to live to be quite old age, actually, considering when he was alive. And he was alive from 1661 to 1755. So 90 odd years old. But he was a British lighthouse keeper who worked on the Eddystone Lighthouse in the English county of Devon, some 9 statute miles southwest of Rainhead in Cornwall. Now, there was a fire. He was born in, sorry, I missed a bit. He was born in 1661. Henry Hall is the oldest known member of the Hall family of lighthouse keepers that kept lights around the English and Welsh coasts from at least the mid-18th century until 1913. The Hall family intermarried with 2 lighthouse keeping families, the Knotts and the Darling family. One of the better known members of the Darling family was Grace Darling, who participated in the rescue of survivors of the Forfarshire. Glad I said that properly. Hall is remembered for his actions following a fire at Eddystone Lighthouse on the 2nd of December 1755, when the wooden Rudyard's Tower of 1706 burned down. At around 2 a.m, Hall was on duty alone when he discovered that a spark from the lamp he had set the roof alight. He attempted to put the fire out by throwing buckets of water 4 yards higher than his head. Hall was soon joined by the other 2 lighthouse keepers who also tried to extinguish the fire. Hall looked up to check his progress and was showered with fallen molten lead from the lighthouse roof. The lead fell upon his body, burning his head, face, neck, and shoulders. As his mouth was open, molten lead fell down his throat. Hall later recalled that he felt the hot lead go down his throat and screamed, "My God, I'm on fire," inside. Hall continued to help his fellow lighthouse keepers, but the 3 were unable to put the fire out. The men were forced to retreat down the tower and eventually made their way to a cave to avoid the falling red-hot debris. The lighthouse continued to burn into the morning and would continue to burn for the next 5 days. At around 10 a.m, the 3 men were spotted by a passing boat. Due to rough surf, the sailors were unable to dock near the cave. The sailors threw a rope to Hall, and his companions, who tied them around their waists, were then pulled through the water to the boat. They were taken to Eaststone House in Plymouth, where Hall was treated by Dr. Henry Spry, who tended to the man's burns and other injuries. Hall spoke to Dr. Spry with a hoarse voice, scarce to be heard, that melted lead had run down his throat into his body and was experiencing severe internal pain. Dr. Spry found Hall's claim unbelievable, as he felt no person could have survived having swallowed molten lead, let alone live for hours afterwards and be towed through water. Dr. Spry also noted that Hall was not exhibiting any other symptoms and reasoned that the trauma of the accident and Hall's advanced age were causing him to make wild claims. Dr. Spry later noted in a report sent on the 19th of December 1755 to the Royal Society in London that Henry was aged 94 years, of good constitution and extremely active for one of that age. In the days that followed the fire, Hall was able to eat, drink, and swallow medicine. He continued to help Dr. Spry with the lead in his stomach and also told a friend who visited him. Hall seemed to be on the mend, but by the 6th day, Dr. Spry observed that Hall's condition was declining. By this time, Hall could no longer eat or drink and began to rapidly worsen. He died on Monday, the 8th of December, 1755, aged 94, at his home in Eaststone House, Plymouth, after being seized with cold sweats and spasms of the tendons. He soon expired. Dr. Spry conducted an autopsy on Hall, noting that left side of his body below the short ribs, in the breast, mouth and throat, left side of the head and face with the eye extremely burnt. The autopsy revealed that the diaphragmatic upper mouth of the stomach greatly inflamed and ulcerated, and the tunica in the lower part of the stomach burnt, and from the great cavity of it took out a great piece of lead, which weighed exactly 7 ounces, 5 drams, and 18 grains. Dr. Spry gave the following written account of how Hall and his 2 colleagues had explained to him how the lead came to be in his stomach. It will perhaps, he thought, difficult to explain the manner by which the lead entered the stomach, but the account which the deceased gave me and others was that he was endeavouring to extinguish the flames, which were at considerable height over his head. The lead of the lanthorn being melted dropped down, and before he was aware of it, the great force into his mouth then lifted up and open, and in such quantity as to cover not only his face but all his clothes.
Hey,
Dr. Spry's account was received with such scepticism by the Royal Society that he felt constrained to conduct experiments on dogs and chickens, poured molten lead down the animals' throats to prove that it was possible to survive for at least a limited period such an extreme accident. But apparently there is a small plaque dedicated to Henry Hall with a few details as to the nature of his death, located in Plymouth city centre, set into the pavement between Plymouth Pavilions, Salumi Bar and Eatery, and the Duke of Cornwall Hotel, Millbay Road. And the piece of lead found in Henry Hall's stomach is now kept in the National Museum of Scotland.
Wow. Sarah Louise says he definitely wasn't swinging the lead.
He was swinging something. I think it was a bucket.
God only knows. God only knows. This has been a quick show. It's been, honestly, it's like one of the quickest I've ever did. Me and Wayne could talk for hours. Just quickly before we go, tomorrow night, Frighteners are doing UK Myths and Legends. We're looking at the whole UK Myths and Legends. It will be a good show, so tune in for that. On Monday, those 2 weird men from the Dark Mirror show will be talking about aliens, as usual. I definitely, I'd give them a watch. I suppose they're all right. On Tuesday, we'll be back with the Simply Spooky show. I don't even know what the subject was because I wasn't there on Tuesday. So, Eric, if you're in the chat, Irene's laughing because I called you weird men. I also want to give a wee shout out to the Paradox Club. If you guys are looking for a new group to go and join, definitely go and join the Paradox Club. They're friendly. Paranormal authors, thank you very much. That's what we're speaking about on Tuesday. That means I need to do research.
Does that mean I might get a mention?
In fact, I'll mention you, Wayne. I'll mention you, sweetie. I'll say, see the Wayne Steeden books. They are fucking awesome.
Well, I just thought I'm a paranormal author, so, and Simon Entwistle.
Well, I'll mention you because, well, we're friends, and I'll mention you, darling. Don't you worry. I'll big up your books. I'll be like, yeah, see that Wayne Steeden, go and read his books. So definitely, I mean, the shows are going to go right up until, well, to the Grave and Back, it's going to be the 21st of December. And Frighteners is going to go to the 22nd of December. Obviously, in the middle, guys, I'll be doing a show myself. Well, I don't know who will be with me. More than likely myself. On the 2004 tsunami. So because in between it will be the anniversary, and it's hard to think you know, that how, you know, the years have went by during that tsunami, and it's, I think it's the second largest. Can you turn that down a bit, please? It's the second largest tsunami in the world to have happened. Is the 2004, because of the wave, the damage. So do that. So that I'll be on in between Christmas and New Year. I haven't quite set a date whether I'm going to do it on the Thursday or do it on the Friday, or I might split it at half and half. I haven't decided quite that yet, but I would keep an eye out definitely. But we just want to thank everybody for all the people that come and view us. We do appreciate you guys more than what you know. Definitely. Tsunamis are horrific. They are, Irene. They are. I've always said in the whole natural disasters, you know, the tsunamis are one of the most deadliest, because water is so powerful and comes at such a speed. And do you know, when you talk about strange ways that people die, you know, the most idiotic things I've ever seen when I watch things on YouTube is people who stand there with cameras taking pictures or recording videos, and they can see the wave coming in and they still stand there.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
think
like,
I think with some of it, it's documenting the incident. You know, it's like you've got. I mean, I was in Sri Lanka the year before the tsunami, and the year after, I was in Corfu visiting my sister with my parents, and we're all sitting there around the table, and my sister's other half, Spiros, had put the TV on for the news. And the first image we got was the hotel that we stayed in the year before getting hit by the tidal wave, because it was on the very south of the island. Now, the actual hotel itself was on flat surface, but you had a little sort of like an incline, and then over like a mound, and then it was about a 20-foot decline back down to the sea line, to the actual shoreline itself. So there was quite a bit of height from the top of this mound down to the shoreline itself. Yet when the tsunami hit, it was almost as if that incline wasn't there. It came right over the top, came straight over the mound itself, just as if it wasn't there. The swimming pool, this muddy, dirty water had just gone boom, straight over it. It was almost like the pool was made of glass. The tidal wave straight over the top. It went in one side of the hotel, out the other side, straight down the driveway and out the front gate. Now, the front driveway is 1/4 mile long, and it just went right down it without any problem. The issue was not so much the water, but it was what was in the water. And that's what causes more of the problems.
So are earthquakes. I totally agree, Irene. I have PTSD from the
Fukushima.
I mean, it's horrible. I mean, any natural disaster is horrible. And I think, why the hell do we complain in the UK about the weather? When in reality, when you look at places like America, when you look at places like, you know, Indonesia, when you look at places like China, you know, Japan, you know, they get it so far much worse. And we complain about, you know, gale force winds, rain. What?
I mean, I was talking with Nick a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Hurricane Mitch, and we were talking about the tornadoes, and I said to him that I'd love to go tornado watching, and I know it sounds morbid. I know it sounds morbid, because why would you want to put your life on the line to go and see something like that? But in a sense, there is a
Definitely.
there is a beauty within the chaos.
Yes, I
You know,
totally agree, my
and
friend.
it's quite a fascination, especially when you see the twins. You know, if you see two tornadoes within a close proximity to each other, and I was saying to Nick that, you know, when you look at it, the UK actually does get more tornadoes per square mile than the United States. The problem we have, or I suppose maybe not a problem, is that our ones aren't that powerful. And they tend
Yep.
to blow themselves out within a couple of seconds. So they're not that strong. The American ones tend to be huge and more powerful than anything that we've ever known.
Yeah.
And there's the difference. The fact is, the American ones are bigger. Well, ours are just piddly little things that, you know, a fly buzzes
Aye.
past and it goes out, it disappears.
No, I totally agree with you.
I had to do a job at someone's house once, doing loft insulation, and I'd heard on the radio there'd been a tornado in that area. And I got to this guy's house, and I said to him, "Oh, so there was a tornado around here." And he went, "Yeah, come through to the back." And he opened his curtains, and there was nothing left of his garden. But at the bottom of his garden, he had a fence, and he had farmer's field with corn in it. And what had happened was the tornado had touched down in the middle of his field. It had come towards his back fence and literally cut across the corner of his garden, had taken the fence panels, all the plants, all the shrubs, the grass had even come up off out of the ground. It was like something had just touched down and scorched everything. It just literally gone. And then went into the next door neighbour's garden, went right the way across their garden, took everything out of that, then into the neighbour along, and then it went back out into the field and then disappeared. And it just literally left a big brown mark right the way across. And he turned around and said, "Unless you saw this, you wouldn't believe it." He said, "It literally just happened yesterday afternoon."
Oh my God. I must admit, like yourself, I really want to go tornado hunting. I always said there was 2 reasons. Well, I've got 3 reasons now to go to America. One of them would be to see everybody that I know. The second reason would be ghost hunting, because I would love to see comparison to what it's like over there to what it's like over here.
Yeah.
And then the third thing I would love to do is tornado hunt, without a shadow of doubt. I would love to go tornado hunting, like literally, because I've always been fascinated with natural disasters since I was a child.
Yeah.
Watching things like Twister, watching things with natural disasters. I've just been so fascinated with, oh my God, how something can cause such destruction.
Yeah.
Even with volcanoes. I love the thought of being there, but no loving the thought of being caught with
I mean,
one. But
I've been following the latest stuff over in Iceland, and trying to explain it to the children, because they're like, "Oh, well, you know, what's going on over there? What's so dangerous about it?" And I said, "Well, Iceland is technically one big chain of volcanoes,
yeah,
but the issue has been that they weren't too sure what was going on, because they knew the magma chamber was slowly filling up, which meant that at one point it was going to blow. So they were warning everybody, but then they discovered there's a corridor under the ground which goes underneath this town, and that is moving. And I think at one point in one day they recorded 600 earthquakes in that area.
oh my God.
So of course they've turned around and said to these people, "You need to get out, because the magma chamber's filling up, and this corridor, which comes right underneath your town, could blow at any point, and at any point of that corridor." And I think the corridor was something like 15 kilometers long, and it goes right underneath the town. So they're all right. So everybody literally got booted out of the town. They had to just pack stuff and go as quick as possible. They then allowed people to go back. I think they got an hour to go back to the town to grab any valuables and any belongings they wanted, or pets, anything they needed to take with them. And they've all been housed elsewhere away from this town. And yet they're getting on with it like it's an everyday occurrence. And you're like,
Yeah.
you're sitting on top of a volcano and you couldn't care less. But the road has ripped apart. And the town itself is going in half. The cracks are coming up through. Some areas it's dropped, others it's raised, others it's left a 6-inch gap. You know, and it's they're going to happen. And then natural disasters are unfortunately part of life. They're going to happen.
Yeah, oh God,
You're not
yeah.
going to stop it. You know, unless you've got 5 million tons of ice cubes to stick down a volcano, you're not going to stop it from blowing its top.
Oh God, hell no, definitely no. I'll tell you another reason why I would really love to go to America is because I'm fascinated and have become fascinated, and I blame you. By the way, I blame Mark and I blame you. Mark's not even here to defend himself, but I'll blame him. What I've become really fascinated by right now is the Nevada desert, because the amount of missing people that go in there, and there's going to be a case, guys, where I'm covering. It won't be next week because Nicholas is part 2. Hurricane Mitch is next week. I forgot to announce that as well. So it'll be the week after. I'm going to be looking at the case of Kenny Veach. For everybody that doesn't know who Kenny Veach is, he is a YouTuber who went missing in the Nevada desert. Now, there is a film called Horror in the High Desert. And some of these films I watch, I like to study. Just get a wee bit of background and see if it's real, if it's no. And there was just something about this film that stood out to me, and I thought, I'm going to check where the basis of this film came. And the basis of this film came from the case of Kenny Veach. So definitely I want to cover that one because it's actually quite a popular case coming up, because just as I was telling you and Mark about it, I happened to see it on YouTube the other day. The Y-Files covered it. The case of Kenny Veach. So definitely. So I've become fascinated about obviously the Nevada desert. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't like to be lost out there. It's a big fucking desert.
Mm-hmm.
How much CO2 is be put out by the volcano? Way too much, Sarah Louise.
Sarah, can we rephrase the question? Because I don't think a lot of people realise this until it's actually rephrased. How much plant food will the volcano spew out? Not CO2, plant food.
I didn't actually know that.
Nobody actually looks at it that way. If you look at it properly, plants need CO2 to live. Photosynthesis, they take in CO2 and give out oxygen. You get rid of CO2, you're getting rid of plants. So how much plant food does a volcano give out? Not
Sarah
CO2.
Louise says that's true, Wayne.
Yeah.
And Eric says I've heard of that. So yeah, definitely. So 2 weeks tonight I'll be covering Kenny Veach case. I'm going to see how much information there is, but then I might crank it up a little and look at the Nevada desert itself.
Oh,
You've given me that look. Is that the look that Mr.
No. You start looking at the Nevada desert yourself. Yeah, if you start looking at Nevada desert itself and its surrounding area and the things that go on there, you have got material for the next 10 years. Because there is so much that goes on there. Not just like the alien UFO type things, but the black stealth projects, the mysterious comings and goings of staff that have blacked out windows in their lorry, the coaches and the planes that land there. Even the staff don't know which direction they're going in when they land in the planes. But then there's other things that go on in that area, like the expansion of Area 51.
I've got a funny feeling your boss is going to kick me in the shins then if I look at the Nevada desert. He'll be like, what are you doing, bitch?
No, I haven't got a problem with you looking at Area 51. I'm just trying to tell you that if you start looking into Area 51, you're going to find a lot more than you expect.
Well,
and there's a reason why people go missing.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll make this show go on for the next 10 years with 100 pals it, and series 1 can be in 2 weeks' time. So everybody use on you go, my love.
There was a lady that actually went through the back gate and she was shot dead. There was a back gate there that was unmanned at the time, so they thought. This was about 15 years ago, I think it was. And this lady went through the back gate thinking that no one was watching. And then out of nowhere, there was a speaker somewhere had said, you need to go back. And if you don't, lethal force will be used against you. She couldn't even see where the speaker was, but she'd heard the voice. She carried on walking. Next minute, knew she got shot in the chest.
Oh.
And everybody hightailed it out of the way from the gates. They all disappeared and they all went their own way. And then since then, the actual boundary for Area 51 has increased year after year. It's got bigger and bigger. And they put sensors down in the ground. They've got, what do we call it? Seismograph sensors down in the ground that you would normally use to detect earthquakes. They're using to detect human footprints or tire movement of vehicles to see if anybody gets anywhere near the boundary.
I might actually leave it with me because I might end up having to split this up then. Leave it with me. I might do 2 shows. I might have to be there fucking 10 years of birthday 2 shows. But I'll have a think. But definitely, guys, that's where we're at. But everybody have a good weekend, whatever you are doing, and enjoy the rest of your week. And remember to stay safe, guys, definitely. And we will catch you real soon. Well, you'll see me tomorrow night again. Without a doubt, I'll be there. So check us out, guys, and we will catch up with you soon. Thank you very much, Mr. Seeding.
You're welcome.